Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about the 365 Days of Flute Project. And it's something that I've talked about a lot in pieces and through other videos and in the article I wrote last year, but it's never something I've really sat down and talked about, or in this case stood up and talked about. And having just been at a festival where I met a ton of new people and had to explain all these things to people, I really had to think and reflect about it and think about everything that it's changed in the past year and what it means to me. And I wanted to talk about it because it really does mean the world to me. I refer to it as one of the stupidest things I've ever done, but it's also one of the best things I've ever done, and it basically changed my life. And that's something I want to talk about. So for those of you who don't really know the story behind the 365, when I moved to Chicago in 2016, I was really floundering. I didn't feel like I was doing anything productive, and I really wasn't practicing or playing or doing anything really. I'm gonna link a video that is very personal and very hard for me to watch, where I visibly break down talking about this, but it's something that I think was important, and it was a breaking point, it was a breakthrough for me, where I realized that I needed to change something. And I needed to figure out a way to get myself out there and get myself playing that didn't necessarily require having all of the connections in the world, because I had just moved here, I didn't really know anyone, and even now I'm still building my connections and building everything up. So 2 years ago, there was really a lot of work ahead of me, and I needed to find something immediately to help. And I was thinking about my YouTube channel and the fact that I had been posting videos on the internet for 4 years, and I really didn't post a lot of performance videos, but I had seen a lot of photography 365s. There was a drag queen named Fifi O'Hara who did 365 Days of Drag, which was a huge inspiration for this project. And there was also a composer named Juwon Park who did this project called 100 Strange Sounds, where he posted 100 different compositions based on sounds he found around his house, his life, and just kind of man-made objects. And I was thinking about how much flute repertoire there was and how much I had learned in the past 10 years, and also how much there was for me to learn, and came up with this idea of a piece a day for a year. And originally I was just going to do standard repertoire. About a month in, I got really bored and was thinking about the fact that I have this incredible base of composers who have worked with me and who have written pieces for me and who I love and want to support, and came up with the idea to add composer submissions into the 365. I got probably 15 or 20 in the first couple weeks, enough to start. And as I was starting, one of the composers mentioned that Composer's site would be a really great place to also have my call, so I would get people that I didn't necessarily know submitting. And that definitely was the case, because I ended up with over 150 submissions. I was able to do 138 of them, which I'm incredibly proud of. And it created the monster that is the 365 Days of Flute Project. And I finished it. And a lot of people always ask me how I had the motivation to do it. And the first 150 days or so, it was really an active thing I had to choose to do every day. And after that, it was just ingrained in me. I had done it so many days in a row that it literally just kind of happened. I woke up, I found a piece, I practiced it, and I recorded it, and then I went to work. And that was my life. That's how it worked. And when it was over, I still got up, practiced, and went to work. After 365 days of playing flute every day, it feels weird when I don't play flute anymore. And I do take days off. I don't take very many of them, but if I'm exhausted or I had crazy day, I feel like I'm allowed to take a day off, but it's still the next day I still get up and I put my flute together and I practice. And that's one of the biggest things the 365 did for me. It was ingrained in me that flute is part of my daily routine. Before the 365, I wasn't really that great at actually practicing. I would do it because I had a performance coming up, or because there was something at school I needed to do, or because I felt guilted into it because I didn't feel like I was practicing as much as my peers, and I wasn't. And this experience has shown me that had I had this dedication and this motivation 6 years ago, I would be in a completely different place. And that being said, I probably wouldn't have even had this project had I not been in the place I was. And so I can't really, hindsight is 2020, but it's a completely different world. It's a completely different person that plays flute now. It's just in me, and it feels so normal to go practice, and that's a really great feeling. And I'm not necessarily saying that you need to go do something every day for 365 days, but doing something every day for 100 days is an incredibly powerful thing. And we all know my thoughts about the 100 Days Practice Challenge. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it does need to have that purpose, because 100 days is a very, very powerful amount of time. Along with just making me a better musician and making me practice more and practice better, it also kind of changed my outlook on music. And a lot of the time I really focused on very, very avant-garde, very new, very different kind of music. I really leaned into the idea that contemporary music was this stuff that didn't sound like music. It didn't have tone, it didn't have pitch, it was all timbral, and it was all crunchy and extended, and it was very, very alienating to the audience, and that was what new music was, and that's what I wanted to do. And I love that music, don't get me wrong, I really, really do. But I also discovered that there was a lot of music out there that wasn't as crunchy or extended or as alienating, that I loved just as much and that deserved to be heard just as much. It really made me reflect and think about the music that I was programming, the way I was programming it, and also the way I was supporting these composers. And a lot of that was also the way I was giving feedback and the way I was thinking about the music itself. I went into tonal pieces as, oh, this is boring, and discovered very quickly that they weren't boring. They were just different, and my view of them had to change. And so moving into the 52 Weeks Flute Project, I was really, really conscious about making sure I wasn't just picking all of these super avant-garde pieces. I wanted to represent the more quote-unquote conservative composers in this project, because they're just as valid, they're just as good, and their voices need to be heard, and they deserve to get their music played. So it was really an interesting philosophical switch in my life. And the last thing is, it really did put me down a different path. I had always kind of assumed that I was going to join an ensemble and was going to play other people's music and work on other people's projects. And I'm not opposed to that. I love doing that, and it's something that I still do now, but I also am really, really excited about creating my own path, creating my own projects, and really being a trailblazer in the digital era. There really aren't that many people creating on YouTube and creating on the internet and using the internet to its fullest extent. And the 52 Weeks Project is just skimming the top of the possibilities. It really isn't comprehensive or anything like that. And one of the things that I'm planning to do is build it out, involve more people, build it into something that's much bigger and much more powerful. But as it is, it's still something that exists as a unique thing. There really aren't people using the internet for collaboration in the way that I do. And that all came from the 365 and this idea that there are composers all over the world who deserve and need this kind of collaboration as much as the people in the same city as me. So yeah, this is kind of a rambly video, but I really wanted to kind of put into words how the 365 changed my life and what it means to me and why I love it so much and why I continue to do these crazy, big, over-the-top YouTube projects. They are really, really important to me, and I hope that they're really important to other people, because I think we need to be better about the way that we're collaborating and the way that we're using digital media. It's an incredibly powerful tool that the music world isn't really embracing to the fullest extent. So, yeah. We'll see you guys on Thursday. As always, if you like this video, give it a like. If you're new here, subscribe. If you want to support me more, check out my Patreon.